obviously have the canvas cotton here, a pair of scissors. I have some cotton quilting thread. It's just a heavy cotton thread. You can use any heavy thread will work for this. I'll even show you a way you can do without the thread using nothing but the canvas. I've got a needle here. Just a simple craft needle. It doesn't have to be really terribly sharp, but it does have to be big enough to take the thread. Got my measuring tape here, and I just have a slat of wood that I'll be using as a straight edge as I lay out the pattern on that. If you don't have thread available, you can unravel the edges of the drop cloth itself. It unravels very easily, and you can take these threads and you can use these threads to actually build your haversack to do all your stitching with. They're just as strong. You would want to take and double them up and twist them together before you use them, but they would be very, very effective for sewing this up if you did not have access to a spool of thread like I have here. First off, let me explain how I've got this set up. This is what's left of the material that I had to start with. What you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half so the two of your finished edges are together at one end. Just like this. You're going to want to fold towards the longer axis of your tarp. So if you've got a 6-foot by 4-foot tarp, you're going to want to fold on the 6-foot axis because that'll give you the options for a larger haversack. Now the width of the haversack, I'm going to want one that's 11 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the top. I'm going to measure out. There's my 11-inch mark, but I'm not going to want to go right on the 11 inches because I'm going to have room for my seams. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to measure up to 12 inches. I'm going to put a mark there, come down here, do the same thing here. Connect those two with my straight edge. Mark that line. This is the only cut I'm going to make in the bag itself. I'm not going to make another cut until I get ready to make the shoulder strap. Alright, so we've got it cut. I'm going to go ahead and set this piece off to the side. We won't need it until a little bit later when we go to make our shoulder strap. Now, we've got our fabric laid out. We need to decide how deep the bag we want and whether or not we want to have a flap with a pocket in it. And the easiest way to do that is just to fold it up from the bottom, like this. If I want a 10-inch deep bag, I'm just going to fold it up until there's wrinkles out of it, so it'll be smooth when I finish. I'm going to fold 10 inches from the bottom up like this. So you can see I just made a 10-inch fold from here to here, and that's going to form the body of my haversack. Now, what that gives me here is 10 inches of flap to work with. If you've got 10 inches of flap, then you can make a pocket. And the easiest way to do that is just to fold it, make about a 4-inch fold. So that gives you still have 6 inches of flap overlay, so your stuff will be secure inside, but you have this room up here, which actually makes 2 pockets, or you can divide them and make 3 or 4 pockets, depending on how you do your divisions. So I'm going to go ahead and make one with a pocket in the flap. If you wanted to make a deeper haversack, say I wanted to make a 12-inch deep haversack, just move this up until you get to that 12-inch mark right there. The only downside is you just took 4 inches off of your flap. So now you've only got a 6-inch flap. At that point, you really can't afford to overlap it to give yourself a these up here, which are the edges of the tarp or the drop cloth, which were already sewn up anyway, so I don't have to worry about them unraveling. Now, the reason I'm doing it this way, I should have explained this towards the beginning. The reason I'm doubling this fabric over is this is an 8-ounce canvas tarp, and most of the 8-ounce canvas tarps, it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer, but most of them are really a kind of a lightweight material, and I wanted something that was more durable. So I've got it doubled over currently, and all I'm going to do at this point is pin these top two pieces together. That'll keep everything from sliding apart. And then I'm going to fold up the bottom, like I did last time, that 10-inch mark, like that. And then I'm going to pin those two like this. And that prepares me to start my stitching. Now, like I said, I'm only going to do 2 rows of stitching for this entire bag. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this down to get it to form a pocket. And I'm going to run a whip stitch from here all the way up to the top. That's going to simultaneously stitch my 2 layers of fabric together and form my 2 pockets all at once. You don't want to run too much thread at one time because you're just going to burn a ton of time pulling it through over and over and over again. I try to avoid having to splice thread in if at all possible, but I'd rather make a splice than have to pull 6 feet of thread through every single time I make a stitch. But typically what I'll do is I'll just measure the length of my seam, and I'll do 4 of those. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start here at the corner, making sure that my stitch is going through all of those layers of fabric. Just like that. You can see how easy this canvas is to sew because it is, the seams are, the weave of the material is so open. So just push that through there. Pull my excess through. And the way I'll anchor it typically is I'll just lay this over here and I'll run the rest of my stitches over it. One advantage of this canvas material as you're sewing is that it is essentially a grid that you're working with, so it really makes it a lot easier to keep your stitches in line with each other. It's almost like cross-stitching. You can count the squares and you'll know where you're going to put your needle next. Alright, I finished up the first seam, and as you can see, just enough cord, so follow that seam all the way down. Back up a little bit so this camera will actually focus. I just wanted to show you all how much thread I had left at the end, and just to let y'all know, that took me almost exactly 15 minutes to stitch that one side. So I'll get back to you once I finish this other side, and we'll get to talking about the shoulder. All right. Now I've done all the main sewing on the bag so far. Let's bring this up here so y'all can see it. You've got the main compartment of the bag here. Then you've got the flap. Inside the flap, I've got 2 pockets. Done for now. Now, for our shoulder strap, we're going to go back to our piece of material here with our tape measure and our straight edge and a pin. And I want a fairly wide shoulder strap, just for comfort. Now, I'm going to make a 2-inch wide shoulder strap. So what I need to do is I need to measure out 4.5 inches. Now, when you're making your shoulder strap, you're just going to lay this all the way out because you want a very long shoulder strap. You're just going to fold it in half like this. Now, I'm simply going to sew 1/4 inch inch inside this seam all the way down, and then I'll turn this inside out. Alright, so I've got the finished shoulder strap. It's all sewn down the side. Simple, basic stitch. You can see I doubled through at each end. Just to make sure that's tied off. Now, in order to turn this inside out, the easiest way I've found to do it is just get you a piece of cord with a safety pin on it. Send that to one end like this. And then on the other end, just tie you a knot, something that'll help you get a grip on it. You just run this inside. Okay, so you can see I've got the piece pinned here, got the knot coming out the other side, so I'll just go ahead and start this turning itself inside out on that end, and then I'll start pulling from the side out. So now I have my completed shoulder strap. Check my measurements here, see how close I got to my goal. I'm 1 3/4 inches, so once again I'm off a little bit, but I'm okay with that. So that is my completed shoulder strap. The next step will be to sew it onto the haversack. You're going to want to sew it on your back here. You want to sew it where the ends are even with the top of the stitch should be even with the opening of your bag, so that when you have it hanging and you close your flap will close directly over the top of that opening. If you sew it too high, then you're going to have that gap right there when the flap closes, and your closure won't be as secure. Alright, now here is the finished haversack with the shoulder strap sewn on. You can see how I stitched that X in there. I actually ended up just stitching up the two sides and then the X. That's really, really strong. I've been testing it, pulling on it. No give to that at all. I probably will go back at some point and stitch straight across the top of those just to give them a little bit more security. But that is the finished haversack. And if y'all have any questions on how these are made, or if there's any part of this process you'd like me to enlighten on, then feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try to get a video up to answer your question or answer your question in the comment section. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you all on my next video.